Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to bring you a wrap up for the months of July and August. The reason I am combining these is because at the end of June, I moved to a new state. I really wasn't reading that much at the end of June, and that did carry over into the beginning of July. In July, I only read 2 books, and according to my story graph, it took me an average of 21 days to finish each book, which really, if you think about it, it's not great. So for August, thankfully, my reading did pick up a little bit, and I read, I think, 4 books. And the average time to finish a book in August, according to my story graph, again, is 12 days. So I am slowly getting out of this moving slump. And I did have some things happen, which I'm sure a lot of you know if you're a returning viewer. But my house, the new house I just bought, decided to turn on me and betray me and exploded sewage everywhere. So if you're new here, hi, how are ya? Welcome to chaos. So the reading slump that I was trying to fight in July kind of compounded on itself again in August, and I am living in a hotel right now. I'm at my house filming because shortly I won't be able to come into my house anymore. They should be starting work soon. So I wanted to do one last wrap up with these beautiful books behind me before you see that ugly hotel room again. Without further ado, let's get into what I read. The first book I read in July is This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. I read this for the Buddy Read collab project that I've been working on with some of my friends. And the video for this book should be going live on Ray's channel at Ray Loves to Read, who I will have linked down below, as well as all of the other Coven Buddy Read members. So make sure you check out their channels, but make sure you subscribe to Ray's as well, because this video should be going up later this year. This book follows a cast of characters who are all like retired adventurers, and they had this epic adventure together when they were younger. They saved the world, but one member of their party died, and so after they save the world, they all kind of split and go their separate ways. And this book follows them having to like get the group back together, so to speak. And I think that's all I'm going to tell you, because if you want to know more thoughts on this one, again, make sure you check out Ray's channel for the video in the future. I will give you one little hint at how I thought about this book. That's the hint. That's all you get. The next book I finished in July is Level Unknown by David Dalglish. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I read this one for my Do I Even Like Lit RPG vlog, which I will link in the card and down below if you want to go check that one out. I had so much fun making that video and reading those 2 books for you. So if you want a more in-depth look at what I thought of Level Unknown, you can find it there. This book follows a young man named Nick, and he lives on a space station with his older brother Simon. His brother Simon is like kind of the coordinator, director of this space station, and they find this artifact thing, and they're trying to interact with it and figure out what this alien artifact is, what it even does, and then they get it to turn on. Nick passes out, and he wakes up in a world called Yenser, and he hears a voice in his head talking him through what's going on, and that voice is called Cataloger, and it's a lit RPG. So, I mean, you can kind of guess what happens from there, but I thought that it was really fun. I thought that the way that this book set up its plot, it really gives an interesting commentary on the whole like good versus evil thing, because we follow Nick through his POV, and as he's like in this world with all these monsters and people that are like strange to him and everything. But then we also get a couple of POVs from someone in the world that he goes to, and we see Nick from his eyes. And so I thought it was really this nice balance of perspective and getting to see both sides of the coin, so to speak. And I just thought it was really fun. I do think that my enjoyment of this one suffered just ever so mildly because I had read Dungeon Crawler Carl previously, and that one was like literally so fun and quickly became one of my favorite books of the year because of the pure enjoyment that I got out of it. But I am trying not to compare apples to oranges because they are very different plots, even though it's a similar subgenre of fantasy. So I still had a lot of fun with it. I do still recommend checking it out. I will say, I just want to note one thing I found with David Dalglish's writing is that there were a couple female characters presented to us throughout this story. And at first, the only thing that kind of makes them important is their appearance. what I mean by that is the main character meets them and we're in his head. And instead of noting like how powerful they are or how smart they are, the first thing he kind of notices like, oh my God, they're so cute, like flirting, like, and that does stop and change throughout the story as it goes on. And like the two women that I'm talking about specifically do have a lot of agency. They're integral to the plot. They're strong, they're badass, they're smart, and we get to see that. And I think that it's great that that happens, but I wish that Nick wasn't so shallow when he first meets them. And it never was like addressed directly. Like there's not any character flaw in Nick that is like, oh, like I shouldn't have done that. Like he never learns anything in that specific like area of his personality. It just kind of stops. And the world itself kind of lends us to be able to see how great these women are outside of Nick's perspective. I would just like to notate that because obviously a man wrote this and I understand the main character is a man, but like we didn't need to focus on their looks at all because their looks are literally not important for what happens in the story. And there was like supposed to be tension and flirting at first, and it's like with both of them. So that did just irk me a little bit. But once that kind of stopped, like once Nick kind of just shut his stupid thoughts off, I started to enjoy the story even better. And overall, by the end of the story, I had a great time and I liked the way that it ended, and the ending actually really made me excited to read book 2 because there were a couple of things that I wish we got in book 1. For example, we do get a POV from his brother Simon, who is on the space station, as well as Nick, who's in this other world. And I really wanted more of Simon's POV because he is having to solve this mystery that I won't tell you anything about, but there's like a mystery happening in his perspective that I was really intrigued in, but I didn't get enough of that. So the ending did kind of hint to me that maybe I'll get what I want in book 2, which is good because I do want to read book 2. So I'm glad that the intrigue like kept up for me at the end. I also finally finished reading Crown of Midnight. This was a reread for me. I read this as a buddy read. I started it so long ago. I don't even know when that was. I think in May. I think it was in May. Oh my God. I've been so slow with my reads this year, and this reread unfortunately took a back seat, but I was buddy reading it with my friend Danny and my friend Jordan from college. So I finally finished that. Took me 3 months. It's Saturday Mass. It's Throne of Glass. I know that you all know what it is, so I'm gonna not talk about it and move on. The second book that I finished in August was Aragon by Christopher Paolini. I was honestly really hoping I would love this. It's a beloved series and it's got dragons, right? I thought that even though it was YA and even though it's a bit older, I had a feeling like, oh, I think this is going to hold up over time. I think this is still going to be a good read for me because I do appreciate books written for younger audiences. I love middle grade. I have been in like a hit or miss breakup situation with YA lately, but some of my favorite books of all time are YA, Strange the Dreamer, for example. So even though this is YA and it's a bit older, I thought because it's so beloved and it's like so classic and whatever that I would love it. Honestly, I hated it. I really hated it. I hated it so badly. I'm not going to explain the plot of this because I feel like everybody knows what Aragon is about, right? But I do want to talk about the writing. I understand that this was written by a 15-year-old. However, he is a grown man now. As of the day that I'm speaking this, he's like 33, right? 33 or 34, I think. So I'm going to criticize it because he's not a child anymore, and I'm not going to sugarcoat the truth to accommodate a man's feelings. I think that the writing is not good. I do think for a 15-year-old, this was great. However, for it to get so popular and blow up and have a movie baffles me because the writing, I don't think it's that good. I think if I had read this when I was 13, I would have absolutely fallen head over heels with it because at 13, you're not as critical. You aren't as experienced as a reader. You don't notice the things that an adult reader who reads all the time is going to notice. And I get that. I'm acknowledging that. But that doesn't change the fact that this was bad. Okay? That does not change the fact that I think this was awful. So when Aragon finds this dragon egg and it hatches, Saphira comes out, right? And that's kind of the plot. He's got this dragon egg, it hatches, he's got a dragon. What do we do about it, right? I was so excited to see him bonding with this dragon. And do you know what we got? We got a paragraph where Christopher Paolini was like, oh, Aragon and Saphira spent 8 weeks together and they bonded and they knew each other better than anyone else. Anyways, and then it just continues the plot. We don't get to see them bond at all. We do not get to see so many things in here that we needed to see. This book tells you everything and shows you nothing. It tells you so many things that it wants you to feel, and it tells you so many things that it wants you to know, but it doesn't do it skillfully. It doesn't describe enough. It doesn't use any emotion. It felt so dry in the emotion aspect. Like, where is the struggle? Like, you're on the run for your life. Your uncle just died. Your cousin could be in danger. Like, I'm not feeling his urgency. I'm not feeling his sadness, his grief, nothing. As a matter of fact, once he starts off on this quest, he almost entirely forgets that his uncle died. He only mentions it like once or twice after that. And then like, where's even his cousin? He was like, oh, I need to get my cousin. Never goes back for him, gets sidetracked. And this book felt like wannabe Wheel of Time, wannabe Lord of the Rings, and I've never watched Star Wars, but I buddy read this with Jade from Jade Juniper, who I'll link down below. And Jade said that it was basically like wannabe Star Wars as well. So it's all three of those things mashed together and then self-insert 15-year-old boy fantasy. And I think it was awful. The thing that aggravates me the most, though, is that there were parts of the plot that I thought were intriguing. Something would happen and I would be like, okay, this is a good kernel. Let's expand on that. We get nothing. Like, there were some good things in here. I will admit that. There were some good things in here that I was like, okay, this is a great idea. Let's run with it. We don't run with it. I just feel like there wasn't enough exposition. We didn't really explore some of the things that were mentioned in here. And there's a lot of inconsistency with some of the characters. Saphira, for example, is a very wishy-washy. Brahm is very wishy-washy. He says one thing, says another thing, and they're direct contradictions of each other. And there is also an instance in here where they rescue a woman who is in prison. She's in a jail cell. She's beaten, bruised, bloody, basically unconscious. Aragon walks into this cell, as well as a side character who I won't say. I'll just try not to spoil as much as possible. But Aragon walks into this cell and goes, oh my God, her body, like, oh, a woman. And then he's like, oh my God, she needs medical attention. And then a side character walks in and is like, wow, she's beautiful. Oh my God, but she's almost unconscious. We should probably help her. Why is the first thought in your fucking head when you see a beaten and bloodied woman on the ground about her appearance? I literally don't give a fuck that this was a 15-year-old boy who wrote that. That's so fucked up. That is so sexist. Why are we objectifying an injured woman who needs medical attention? And then later on, Aragon heals her. Somehow he heals her a little bit with something. And he's having to like touch her skin, right? And he's like literally trying not to kill her. And the whole time he's like, oh my God, I'm touching a woman. Lucky me. I'm blushing. Hopefully she can't read my thoughts. Hopefully she doesn't know I'm blushing. Like, can you fucking keep it in your pants for 20 minutes so she can not die? And then you can think she's hot? Like, oh my God. And I get it, like, he's a 15-year-old boy. I don't give a fuck. If a 15-year-old boy was harassing a woman on the street, would you just watch? If a 15-year-old boy was objectifying women out loud in front of you, would you just watch? I don't think it's okay. I think that scene and the treatment of her when she first gets introduced to the story is despicable. I think it's just indicative of the sexist patriarchal society that we live in, because I don't ever see anyone criticize that. I don't see anyone having a problem with that. And like, that really pisses me off, because what the fuck do you mean we're just objectifying an injured woman and it's fine? I don't jive with that. That's so fucked up. If my son ever, as a teenager, objectified a injured woman in front of me, he's getting the backhand. I do not care. I literally don't care. Don't you fucking dare. A woman's safety and health should be way more important than what the fuck you think she looks like. And that pissed me off. And for that reason, all of the things that I was like, oh, like, this is a good idea, let's run with it. Oh, this part was actually kind of cool. Oh, this character made me laugh. All of the good things in here immediately went away, because I don't care how many good things you do. If you do something like that, that just erases all of the brownie points you've earned with me. So for that reason, I gave it 0 stars. I love Storygraph, because you can rate it as low as a 0, and you bet your fucking ass I did. And I'm not sorry about it. And I hope someone argues with me in the comments because I just don't give a fuck. I don't care. If you love this book, I love that for you. If you read this as a kid and you didn't notice it back then and you have all the nostalgia with it and you're an adult now, that's fine. I don't hold it against you. But people who are reading this for the first time as adults should be talking about the flaws. It's okay to talk about the flaws in a book. It's wildly popular. It made him lots of money. It has a movie. Like, he's not going to suffer if I sit here, little old me, on the fucking internet and tell people I think it sucks. He's fine. He will probably never see this, and I don't care. I'm still going to sit here and tell you, I think this book fucking sucked. For a 15-year-old, is it good? Sure. When did this come out? 10 years ago? Has to be more than 10. 20? I don't know why 23 years later, we're still sitting here and acting like this is the greatest dragon fantasy of all time, because honestly, it wasn't. And it's okay to say that. And I'm going to keep saying it. And that's fine. I don't care. I fucking hated this book. I thought it was so bad. Literally, the only reason I finished this book is because me and Jade were listening to the audiobook and making fun of it the entire time. I got through this book out of pure spite. I just wanted to hate it. It got to the point where I was like 70% of the way through and I really wanted to DNF, but I kept going just so I could hate it more. Because at this point, I was like, I already hate it. I might as well just go full throttle and hate it as much as possible. So I forced my way to the end. I will not be continuing the series. And we're just gonna move on now. And the last book I read in August is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. This was my Reading Realm book club pick for July and August. And woo, was she a big one. So this book follows a couple of people on an island. How do I explain this book? Okay, I don't know how to explain this book without spoiling to you. So I'm going to read you the synopsis and then I'll give my thoughts with the synopsis in mind. On a mountainside at the edge of the Kaiganese Empire lived the most powerful fighters in the world, warriors capable of raising the sea and wielding blades of ice. For centuries, the fighters of the Kusanagi Peninsula have held the Empire's enemies at bay, earning their treacherous spit of land the name the Sword of Kaigen. Born into Kusanagi's legendary Matsuda family, 14-year-old Mamoru has always known his purpose to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. But when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain of Kaigen's alleged age of peace, Mamoru realizes that he might not have much time before he has to become the fighter he was bred to be. Even worse, the empire he was born to defend might stand on foundations of lies. Misaki told herself that she let the passions of her youth behind when she married into the Matsuda house. Determined to be a good housewife and mother, she hid away her sword along with everything from her days as a fighter in her faraway country. But with her son asking questions about the outside world, the threat of invasion looming on the horizon, and her frigid husband grating on her nerves, Misaki finds the fighter in her clawing its way back to the surface. When the winds of war reach their peninsula, will the Matsuda family have the strength to defend their empire, or will they tear each other apart before the true enemies ever reach their shores? So this book deserves every ounce of praise that it's given. I want to cry just thinking about it. This story, as we know from the synopsis, we follow Mamoru and Misaki and their mother and son. And there's a classmate that comes and kind of opens Mamoru's eyes and he's like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, the empire is corrupt. And Mamoru's like, no, that can't be. My family says the empire is good. And then Misaki, of course, is trying hard to let go of her past and failing. And I think that this is a extremely tragic and bleak and hopeless character study. It's so character focused. There is a lot of action in here, but I would say the action probably doesn't start until maybe like page 200. And for the first 200 pages, it is very much focused on Misaki and Mamoru's interpersonal like struggles. And when we get to the action in here, the way that these characters in this world experience the action is so well written that I genuinely have never felt this much heartbreak and sadness and like despair ever reading a book. This should have like 8 million awards. This book needs to go up on a pedestal, like on a golden platform, just hanging, suspended, like with lights on it Like, it's so well written. I can't wait to read Emma Long's next book. And I think this book was so nearly perfect for me. This is so nearly a perfect book for me. There is one thing in here that happens towards the end that I think, how do I say this without spoiling? There's a character in here who I fucking hate, and they do something inexcusable in my opinion, but after the fact, they are forgiven-ish too easily. I think that the character in here didn't actually deserve how easy they got off. I think that that character needed harsher repercussions to their actions. I think that's a good way to say that without spoiling. The way that that situation was handled just really pissed me off. And even though I was pissed off, like, the writing is still immaculate, right? The writing was so good. This is self-published also, by the way. Like, what do you mean? The skill level to pull off this intricate and dense of a story in a single book, because there's no sequel, astounding. Emma Long is a fantastic writer, just naturally talented. I'm sure she worked really hard as well to develop this craft, but you can tell that this is like a natural gift that she was given and she honed it to perfection. Yeah, so this was nearly perfect for me. I gave it a 4.5 just because I do really think that some of the themes in the beginning, the reason why I didn't get a 5-star, because I'm not the author. No book is going to be written the way that I would write it or like how I would want it to be written. And I get that. But the reason why this specific situation took off half a star for me is because in the first 477 pages, the themes in here really are like setting up, like the themes are setting up the characters. The themes are like lifting up the plot, and the theme, I'm not going to say what theme specifically because I think it will also spoil, but there is a recurring theme in here, and there is a character in here who like is the personification of that theme, right? And then this thing happens, and this one character that I hate asks for forgiveness. They don't even ask, really. They just kind of get forgiveness that they didn't ask for and didn't deserve. And it kind of like ruins all of the character work relating to the other character in here, the one who personified this like specific theme, right? So it's not just that I hate that one character and like I'm like, fuck you, you don't deserve shit, even though that is part of it. It's more or less that I felt like that specific thing that happens makes everything else this other character has been through like worthless. It makes it meaningless. There's so many things that we were like striving towards and working towards. Again, I'm trying not to spoil, so I'm so sorry if this sounds really, really vague, but I just think that it really undoes a lot of the great character growth that one of the characters went through. And the person that I hate, I don't think that in the moment where they get this forgiveness, that they haven't grown enough yet. I think that characters and people in real life should get forgiveness if they show that they have grown and changed as a person, if they show that they are actively working towards doing better or being better, whatever, right? Okay, I can get behind that. This character didn't deserve it yet. They didn't earn any of it yet. And like right at the very end, there is something that happens where I'm like, okay, now I can see where this person would be granted some forgiveness for what occurred before, because now they have done something that shows to me as a reader, they are actively trying to work towards changing and being better, but they got forgiveness way too early. And I think it does undo a lot of the character work that we got in the beginning with a different character. I'm so sorry that if you haven't read this book, that makes no sense to you. If you have read this book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, I can't help you. I don't want to spoil it. I want to also make sure that anyone who is interested in reading this checks out trigger warnings. There are none listed at the beginning, I don't think. Let me just check. Yeah, there are no trigger warnings inside the book specifically, but I think that you should really be aware that there is death of children, multiple children on page. Children die on page in here. It's a little bit graphic, so just be warned about that. And there is rape like happening on the page as well as talked about off page. There's miscarriage in here, talked about in the past, and also like flashback on page. There is misogyny, abuse towards women. There is like blood and gore and there is also a suicide. Off page, you don't see it, but it is heavily implied suicide. So just be wary of those things going in, because there were a few things in here that I knew about, but there were some things in here that I didn't know about until it was too late. And while I loved this book, it did do a number on my mental health, and the emotional impact was like way stronger in a bad way, sort of, because I wasn't fully like aware and prepared going in to be ready for that kind of thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I let everyone else know, because even though I loved this book and it's fantastic, I do think that the trigger warnings aren't as talked about as they should be. So that's my 2 cents on that. But again, fantastic book. I can't wait to read Blood Over Brighthaven. I've heard it's just as infuriating, just as well written. And I think this author has a lot to offer, and I can't wait to see what else she's going to write. Those are all of the books I read in July and August. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you're interested to read any of these after hearing me chat about them, or let me know if you agree about Aragon. Thank you, as always, for watching. And if you've made it this far in the video and you want to leave a comment but you don't know what to say, leave the ice cube emoji down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!